Have you ever wondered how certain animals can survive extremely cold temperatures without dying? Certain animals have evolved unique adaptations to survive the extremely cold winter months at high latitudes. Sit tight as we talk about 15 of these animals. Darkling beetle. The darkling beetle in Alaska is able to survive temperatures as low as 76 degrees Fahrenheit by preventing its watery cells from freezing. The darkling beetle produces a type of antifreeze called xylomannan, which is made from sugars, unlike other animals and organisms that use proteins for this purpose. This antifreeze prevents ice formation in the cells of the beetle with the help of oily mixtures. Darkling beetles usually inhabit the ground, residing beneath and near objects such as rocks, logs, leaf litter, and garden mulch. Some organisms live underneath the bark of trees that have died. Some organisms dig into shelf fungi and other types of mushrooms. This family is found all over the world, but they are most common and diverse in dry regions like the American desert Southwest. There are also many species that are found in regions with higher moisture and more moderate temperatures, similar to ours. Darkling beetles, both as adults and larvae, possess mouthparts that are used for chewing. Many of them are scavengers, particularly those that feed on plants. Some organisms consume live plants and can cause damage to crops. Mealworms are the larvae of certain darkling beetles. They are known as pests because they can cause damage to stored grains. A lot of darkling beetles have specific adaptations that help them survive in the desert. Some of these organisms, which reside in the Namib Desert in southern Africa, have the ability to collect water from fog. The beetles sit on the edges of sand dunes and lift their hind ends, positioning their backs towards the wind. The elytra, which are shell-like surfaces on their body, collect tiny water droplets. This moisture then moves down the insect's body, forming a droplet of water at the mouth. The term for this behavior is fog basking. Researchers are studying the specific surface texture that is highly effective for these beetles. When applied on a larger scale, biomimetic technology inspired by these beetles has the potential to assist people in surviving in desert regions that have fog but limited water resources. Arctic woolly bear caterpillar. The Arctic woolly bear is able to survive in the extreme cold of the Arctic Circle, Canada and Greenland, because it can adapt to freezing, thawing, and feeding. The Arctic woolly bear has sugars in its blood that function as antifreeze, safeguarding the cells in extremely cold temperatures. This caterpillar goes through a process of freezing and thawing about 7 times in its lifetime. After that, it forms a pupa and eventually transforms into a moth during the summer. When it transforms into a moth, known as the Arctic woolly bear moth, it will only live for a few weeks to reproduce before dying shortly after. Caterpillars typically spend around 90% of their lives hiding, often among rocks. This helps protect them from parasites, which are responsible for the deaths of approximately 75% of caterpillars. During a significant portion of this duration, they remain in a frozen state. When rocks are present in an area, their temperature remains relatively stable compared to the surrounding soil. This helps protect them from the damaging effects of repeated freezing and thawing cycles without becoming warm enough to become active. During the spring, rocks have the ability to absorb heat more effectively than vegetation. This can result in the faster melting of snow and the early emergence of plants. Caterpillars spend a significant amount of time, up to 60%, being active and basking in the sunlight. They do this to warm up their bodies to a temperature that allows them to eat and grow. This typically occurs during midday, when the caterpillars can reach a temperature of up to 30 degrees Celsius, which is about 20 degrees Celsius higher than the surrounding air temperature under optimal circumstances. They spend approximately 5% of their lifespan dedicated to feeding, with the majority of their feeding occurring in the month of June. This is an important aspect of the cold adaptations that enable this cold-blooded creature to survive, even when it becomes completely frozen at temperatures as low as -70 degrees Celsius. The caterpillar produces various chemicals, including glycerol and other unique substances to achieve its goals. Prairie dogs. Prairie dogs are not actually dogs, but rather rodent animals. During the cold months, they slow down, but do not completely hibernate. The length of their body can vary between 12 and 15 inches, and they have a 3-inch long tail. They typically weigh between 2 and 4 pounds. These creatures typically live underground and have light at the ends to help them watch out for predators. Prairie dogs are highly affectionate animals. Baby prairie dogs quickly form strong bonds with humans and enjoy being in their presence constantly. Prairie dogs need companionship and can either be paired with another prairie dog or require a lot of attention from their owner. Prairie dogs are known for being clean animals. Prairie dogs create social groups known as coteries. Prairie dogs are called that way because of where they live and the sounds they make to alert others, which resemble a dog's bark. The animal is a type of rodent that is part of the squirrel family. The genus name Cynomys comes from the Greek term meaning dog mouse. These rodents have sufficient space in their underground habitat for male and female rodents to live together. In winter, they snuggle with their family members to stay warm. Bears do not hibernate completely. They sometimes leave their habitats to search for food, but their heart rate and metabolism slow down during the night. Skunks. Skunks are well known for the unpleasant odor they release when they feel scared or threatened by someone. During the winter, they do not fully hibernate, but instead become less active. Skunks used to be classified as members of the weasel family known as Mustelidae. This family includes other carnivorous mammals like martens, minks, badgers, otters, and wolverines. However, based on more recent molecular evidence, skunks are now typically categorized in their own family called Mephitidae. They measure between 20 and 30 inches in length, which includes their tail. The weight of the object or person can vary between 6 and 10 pounds. These creatures mainly live in vacant logs or hollow trees and are typically discovered in a heap of leaves. Skunks have the ability to replenish the spray they use, but they can only hold a limited amount at once. For example, striped skunks can store less than 2 ounces of their unique spray. As the substance takes a long time to create and can potentially save lives, people usually attempt to handle minor threats using alternative methods before resorting to spraying it. If the skunk's intimidation tactics fail, it may ultimately use its well-known defense mechanism. The animal curves its body into a U-shape, directs its anal glands towards the threat, and sprays with impressive precision. During the winter, animals often stay close to humans to find enough food and stay warm. They are commonly found living on the porches of houses. Skunks frequently dig holes in gardens to eat grubs, as they are aware that they can hibernate in those holes. People typically encounter them during their hibernation periods because they reside near locations that offer heat, warmth, and a source of food. Arctic ground squirrels. Arctic ground squirrels are the only mammals mentioned in this list, and there is a valid reason for that. While many mammals can tolerate cold temperatures by having thick fur and hibernating during the winter, none of them completely shut down like the Arctic ground squirrel. Similar to other competitors, these squirrels are also capable of lowering their body temperature below freezing, reaching as low as -2.9 degrees Celsius, which is a remarkable achievement among mammals. However, the truly remarkable adaptation occurs in the squirrel's brains. They are capable of disconnecting and reconnecting neural connections, known as synapses, during hibernation. This process occurs approximately every 2 or 3 weeks throughout the winter when the squirrels wake up and warm up. Dendrites are the branch-like parts of neurons that receive chemical messages from other neurons. Hibernation causes these dendrites to shrink or deteriorate. In the early 1990s, a study conducted in Russia discovered that the brains of squirrels in hibernation had fewer dendrites compared to the brains of squirrels that were awakened and given time to adjust. And just 2 hours after waking up, the synapse connections are repaired, with even more dendrite branches than before. However, after 12 to 15 hours, the brain starts eliminating the connections once more as the squirrel goes back to hibernation. The Arctic ground squirrel is a species that inhabits various regions in northern Canada, including areas from the Arctic Circle to northern British Columbia, and extending to the southern border of the Northwest Territories. Wood frogs. The wood frog, which can be found in northern Alaska and the Yukon, is not bothered by this. When the temperature drops suddenly, the frog's body produces cryoprotectants to prevent freezing. These substances help protect the frog from the cold. Frogs store urea in their tissues, and their liver converts glycogen into glucose. These frogs have the ability to bury themselves under a layer of leaves and sometimes even a layer of snow. They can survive even if more than 60% of their body freezes for up to 2 weeks. 2/3 of the ice in the frog's body forms under the skin and within the body cavity. This happens when the frog dehydrates its internal organs within the first 12 hours of freezing or hibernation. Wood frogs have a distinct black marking on their face that looks like a mask worn by a robber. Frogs also have 2 raised skin ridges, known as dorsolateral folds, which extend from their eyes down their back. Wood frogs typically measure between 1.5 and 3 inches in length. Females are bigger than males. Wood frogs are among the first frogs to start their breeding season, typically in early March. During the breeding season, male animals can be heard producing quack-like sounds throughout the day and night. Female organisms lay clusters of eggs, typically ranging from 1,000 to 3,000 in number. These eggs take approximately 9 to 30 days to hatch. Frogs can reach maturity in 1 to 2 years, with the time varying depending on their sex and the specific frog population. The typical lifespan of a wood frog in its natural habitat is generally around 3 years. Wood frogs can be found in the forests of Alaska and the northeast region of the United States. Wood frogs are the only type of frog that can be found living north of the Arctic Circle. Adults typically inhabit woodlands and lay their eggs in vernal pools. Adult wood frogs are eaten by various species of snakes. Nototheniod fish. Antarctica is home to fish species that cannot be found in any other ocean in the world. Animals, including fish, are classified into groups based on shared traits or features inherited from their ancestors. The process of categorizing animals based on their shared characteristics is known as taxonomy. Animals can be grouped into various levels, ranging from the broad domain level to the more specific species level. The Notothenioids is a taxonomic group that includes several species of fish found in Antarctica. This type of fish is commonly found in the Southern Ocean, which includes areas around New Zealand, Antarctica, and South America. They usually live in water temperatures ranging from -2 to 10 degrees Celsius. These fish have developed a variety of traits that enable them to survive in extremely cold waters. This characteristic enables them to stay submerged without expending additional energy. Notothenioid fish produce their own proteins that act like antifreeze to help them survive in the extremely cold waters of the Southern Ocean around Antarctica. Antifreeze proteins in the blood of certain organisms attach to ice crystals, which stops the crystals from getting larger and causing damage to tissues and cells. Iguanas. Cold-blooded animals, such as iguanas, can become immobile or freeze when temperatures drop below 40 or 50 degrees Fahrenheit. This suggests that if iguanas typically spend most of their time in the trees, they are coming down to lower levels. Iguanas are big lizards that can measure between 1.2 to 2.0 meters long, including their tails. These animals have a dewlap and a line of long scales that go from the middle of their necks to their tails. Iguanas have different types of scales that cover different parts of their body. For instance, they have large, round, tuberculate scales on the sides of their neck, mixed with smaller, overlapping scales. The scales on the upper part of their bodies are thicker and closer together compared to the scales on the lower part. The scales can come in different colors and may not always be easy to see up close. Owning an iguana requires a significant amount of space within your home. Experts advise using a cage that is twice as long as the animal's length. Iguanas can reach a length of almost 1.5 meters, so a suitable cage for them might require a significant amount of space, potentially occupying an entire room. It is essential for the sake of the iguana's well-being, that the enclosure be fabricated out of a material that is unabrasive and won't inflict any injuries. In addition to this, the enclosure ought to have adequate ventilation and be coated with an appropriate substrate. Building an appropriate habitat for an iguana can be time and money consuming and can also be rather costly. Iguanas are not just complicated animals, but their personalities are just as convoluted as their bodies. Iguanas can have very different personalities, which can change temporarily depending on the season, conditions in captivity, and hormonal fluctuations. The iguanas are currently unable to move due to the cold, but they will become active again once the outside temperature increases and warms up their bodies. In the meantime, make sure not to handle a frozen iguana if you suspect it is dead. Tardigrade. Water bears, also known as tardigrades, are small invertebrates that measure just 1 millimeter in size. However, they are famous for being one of the most resilient animals on Earth. They have the ability to survive in extremely cold temperatures that are much lower than what most people can tolerate, as low as -359 degrees Fahrenheit. They can survive even when boiled, exposed to radiation, and subjected to extreme pressure. In 2011, they were even sent into space and successfully survived. The current hypothesis suggests that they survive by entering a state called cryptobiosis, which is similar to a death-like state where they become dehydrated. When the conditions improve, they are able to revive. There are approximately 1,300 species of tardigrades that can be found all over the world. These organisms are considered aquatic because they need a small amount of water to keep themselves from drying out. They have been seen in various environments, including the deep sea and sand dunes. Moss piglets are called so because they prefer to live in freshwater mosses and lichens. Tardigrades have stiff cuticle that covers their body despite the fact that they have the appearance of being soft. This cuticle is quite similar to the exoskeletons that can be seen in insects, such as grasshoppers and praying mantises, which are closely related to tardigrades. In order to grow, just like insects, tardigrades must periodically shed their outer coat, which is their cuticles. The animal has 4 to 6 claws on each foot, which help it grip onto plants. It also has a specialized mouthpart called a buccopharyngeal apparatus, which enables it to extract nutrients from plants and microorganisms. The reason for their resilience is partly because of a special protein in their bodies called DSUP, which stands for damage suppressor. This protein helps protect their DNA from being damaged by things like ionizing radiation, which can be found in soil, water, and vegetation. Another fascinating survival technique is cryptobiosis, which is a state of inactivity that is triggered by a dry environment. The microanimals remove all the water from their bodies, pull back their heads and limbs, curl up into a small ball, and enter a state of dormancy. When the conditions become better, they unfold and start doing what they need to do. Polar bear. Polar bears have black skin and fur that appear transparent. Their tongues are blue as well. The fur coats of animals have natural oils that help repel water and prevent them from getting cold. Polar bears are the biggest bears on Earth and are seen as powerful and resilient creatures in their natural habitat. These animals spend a significant amount of time in the water searching for food. Polar bears dedicate more than 50% of their time to searching for food. Depending on the time of year and other factors, a polar bear typically catches only 1 or 2 seals out of every 10 it hunts. They primarily eat ringed and bearded seals as their main source of food, as they require significant amounts of fat for their survival. Polar bears rely on sea ice for a variety of behaviors, including traveling, hunting, resting, mating, and in some areas, constructing maternity dens. These activities take place on the ice. The primary concern that climate change poses to polar bears in the Arctic is the melting of their sea ice habitat. So in May of 2008, the United States government added polar bears to the list of endangered species in the United States in accordance with the Endangered Species Act. Polar bears are spending more time on land as their natural home, the sea ice, continues to melt away. Arctic fox. These chilly critters, just as cute as the Arctic hare, have mastered the art of tundra survival in their own frosty fashion. Arctic foxes are like the ultimate ice enthusiasts. They're all about that land and sea ice life within the Arctic Circle. The winter in the Arctic is different from winter in most other places in the world. During the months of October to February, there are periods when the sun does not rise, resulting in a lack of warmth and light. Fortunately, these small foxes possess beneficial adaptations that allow them to survive in the freezing Arctic. The fox's thick fur coat helps maintain its body temperature at a warm 104 degrees Fahrenheit. The fox stays warm by using its long, fluffy tail as a blanket. It wraps the tail around its body when it sleeps. Their feet are covered in a layer of thick fur, similar to having built-in snow boots. The Arctic fox's footsteps are muffled by this, making it more difficult for prey to hear them. The white coats of these animals help them blend in with the ice and snow, making it hard for predators like wolves, polar bears, and golden eagles to see them. The Arctic fox hunts small mammals and is sometimes seen following polar bears to scavenge their leftovers. The animal's fur is white in the winter and changes to brown or gray in the warmer months to blend in with its surroundings. An Arctic fox is constantly searching for food when it is not focused on staying warm or avoiding predators. Polar bears have a preference for consuming small rodents known as lemmings. However, when there is a lack of food, they will eat a wide variety of other items, such as berries, insects, and even the excrement of other animals. Occasionally, an Arctic fox may trail behind a polar bear during a hunting expedition and consume the remains of the bear's meal. If a fox is unable to find food, or if the weather becomes severe, it has the ability to dig a snow den and stay inside for a period of up to 2 weeks. A fox can lower its heart rate and metabolism when it is warm, allowing it to conserve energy and eat less. It's similar to how bears hibernate, but for a shorter duration. Caribou. Caribou, also known as reindeer, is a well-liked animal during cold weather, particularly during the Christmas season. Their compact bodies and dense fur provide insulation to keep them warm, while their elongated legs assist them in navigating through snowy terrain. Caribou are more comfortable in cold weather because they are bothered by bugs during the summer. The pests are known to chase them for several miles, so they run to get away. One interesting fact about caribou is that both males and females have antlers, which is uncommon among deer species. Caribou have hooves with hollow bottoms, which helps them dig up food hidden under the snow more easily. Reindeer can be found in both migratory and sedentary populations, and the sizes of their herds vary greatly in different regions. Reindeer come in a wide range of sizes and colors. The smallest is the Svalbard reindeer, while the largest is Osborne's caribou. Even though reindeer are generally easy to come by, there are some types of reindeer and subtypes of reindeer that are seeing their population sizes decrease and are therefore regarded to be vulnerable. Female deer are different from other deer because some of them can have antlers. However, the occurrence of antlered females can vary depending on the species and subspecies. Reindeer are the only type of deer that have been partially domesticated on a large scale. They have been valuable to Arctic people throughout history, providing them with food, clothing, and shelter. Even today, reindeer are still herded and hunted. Common poorwill. This bird is unique because it freezes itself during winter instead of migrating to warmer regions. Their facial structure resembles that of owls. Similar to owls, they are also active at night. The size of the object varies between 7.5 and 8.3 inches, and it weighs between 1.3 and 1.9 ounces. These birds are small in size and resemble owls. Common poorwills have colors that resemble those of an owl, including black, brown, and gray. This allows them to blend in with their surroundings and camouflage effectively. They will remain asleep for weeks and continue sleeping for months. They survive by consuming the fat from insects they ate prior to hibernation. During hibernation, animals lower their body temperature, slow down their heart rate, and reduce their breathing to conserve energy. Common poorwills are clumsy when on the ground and usually land near their nest. Flight is a type of movement that occurs near the ground. It is characterized by a series of flutters that resemble the movements of a moth, followed by a smooth glide. They typically rest on the ground or on low-hanging branches during the day, and sometimes you may find multiple individuals resting together. The common porwheel can be distinguished from other nightjars by its small size, short bill, rounded wings that reach the end of the short tail when at rest, and pale grey color. Iguanas. Cold-blooded animals, such as iguanas, can become immobile or freeze when temperatures drop below 40 or 50 degrees Fahrenheit. This suggests that if iguanas typically spend most of their time in the trees, they are coming down to lower levels. Iguanas are big lizards that can measure between 1.2 to 2.0 meters long, including their tails. These animals have a dewlap and a line of long scales that go from the middle of their necks to their tails. Iguanas have different types of scales that cover different parts of their body. For instance, they have large, round, tuberculate scales on the sides of their neck, mixed with smaller, overlapping scales. The scales on the upper part of their bodies are thicker and closer together compared to the scales on the lower part. The scales can come in different colors and may not always be easy to see up close. Painted turtle hatchlings. The painted turtle is a native turtle that can be found all over North America. Fossils provide evidence that the painted turtle lived 15 million years ago. In the traditional stories of the Algonquian tribes, the clever turtle was often portrayed as a mischievous character. Currently, 4 states in the United States, Colorado, Illinois, Michigan, and Vermont, have designated the painted turtle as their official reptile. The turtle's population has decreased due to habitat loss and road accidents. However, its adaptability to human-disturbed environments has allowed it to remain the most common turtle in North America. These turtles can live for more than 55 years in the wild. The shells of these creatures are long and oval-shaped with smooth surfaces. They have small grooves where the large scale-like plates overlap, and their bottoms are flat. The color of the upper shell can range from olive to black. The lower part of the shell is typically yellow, but it can also be red or have dark markings in the center. The turtle's skin is olive to black, just like the top shell. However, it also has red and yellow stripes on its neck, legs, and tail. The heads of painted turtles are easily recognizable. The face of the animal has yellow stripes, a big yellow spot, and streaks behind each eye. There are also 2 wide yellow stripes on the chin that come together at the tip of the jaw. Like other pond turtles, the painted turtle has webbed feet that help it swim. Painted turtles are a resilient species, which has enabled them to thrive across a large portion of North America, specifically to the east of the Rocky Mountains. In the colder areas of this range, the cold-blooded turtles have developed strong adaptations to prevent freezing to death. After emerging from their eggs in late summer or early autumn, most baby turtles instinctively head towards the nearest unfrozen lake or stream to spend their first winter. However, painted turtle hatchlings that reside in cold climates stay in their nest during the winter, even when temperatures drop below freezing. The young turtles have a unique ability to survive by supercooling their blood, which means their blood can stay liquid even below its freezing point, preventing the formation of ice crystals. The thick skin of the hatchlings, along with the small amount of water they hold, helps them stay warm by protecting them from the cold. Make sure to give us a like and subscribe to this channel for more interesting videos from us.